Hello, some proven child abusers, leaders, and kids years ago, and before I was even born. And then when I was an adult, they had time collusions with uses at corners of streets and next to schools, and with the news predicate acts, and with confessions regarding the CIA involved, and with demonstrations of that. A bunch of people tied to a Ray Reynolds influenced him to be near me outside of campus. I only saw him on a campus one time when I was in kindergarten, warning your connection is unstable. That happens every time we know what I'm about to do. Is before the World Trade Center attack. In the World Trade Center attack, interstates coordinated was recorded. And then since it, people that were in and next to each of the campuses I went have roles of having others influence him to make it take a picture, make it look like I had conversations with them. Ray Reynolds is one of the ones involved with Middlesex Community College, leaking and pretending other. With Eric Jensen, Ray Colello, Mike Pandolf, and others involved with involved planting federal evidence as crimes on my street, and with wire crimes and acts and methods. And their educators also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed this. And in ways that they need to pretend they're putting fake things in databases. And with the news, Channel 3 News, WFSB, fake conversations to me. They have collusions with these and the other countries involved with them, including some that they're making themselves guilty so they can hide with the federals involved. And that's where they're framing our country because it's recorded they were used remotely since they were kids there. And as the adults, I recorded since they were kids used remotely. In other words, I never even had a conversation with the people in my. Two times I had for example, two times I had a cooking class in high school. People that were put in that class were facilitated with the federal evidence crimes of people on my street, identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, and confessions tied to Church Street in Old Weathersfield. There are men and women that with the courts that have been abusing kids there and across the town. And then they have investigators about certain things to measure and maintain their key, keep their mouth shut about things, including how they use those investigators to lie about what they think about other people and what they think are guilty of what happened. They're even using trying to. They recorded themselves only capable of defending how they were used remotely since they were kids by filming fake things and go before courts. They have to were shown remotely. It's recorded. While tactically delusions wrought. It says again, your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect. See, there are. I don't know if this is with Judge Napolitano refers to his grandma. In other words, which is a movie that was back in the day. But in other words, there are multiple agencies. Whiting Forensics in Middletown, Connecticut has a bunch of people in Middletown, Connecticut involved with the Phil Colello, further involved with predicate acts on my street. And with violence, people involved with poison too. Even an officer named Poison involved with digital crimes with them. Evidence is rackets. These are increasingly people with the state judicial branch offices of Connecticut and with the state corrections offices. And the differences of the guilt there are next to or conjunctive to places. And to that is also manifest because they were all used remotely. All locations /S, for example, the suburbs across from America to Russia to Ukraine, they were designed before America's founders were born. Their houses there still stand for this design that was forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded, only permitted. Even people weren't even permitted to be heard. Conversation outside of what the sense and sensibilities of international companies, countries, all these things said, overt criminal enterprise, private ones, terrorists, only capable of being manifest. Check what laws were there at the same time against all women, against Native American, against black pupils, whites of eyes. All right. Our founders did not have free speech. See, these agencies, the identities of the people, the sciences, A through Z, including the law, retired and standing to the difference of that. The breaching method already used it, but everything the breaching method uses and does, it does it through our own. It made those pseudo sophistication pretended other. They put, let's get the bomb going on. The only reason, in other words, A through Z have excuses. because A through Z are being shown by nature itself. They are and have been forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded to use their own names and or other people's names and or the names of everything naturally manifest through an system's tactical ulterior from the one that is the individual system of nature that is generating individual species bodies of individual bodies. The differences of parties were all recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, self-valued while they're defending themselves, being used remotely, criminally for and influenced by a breaching method. I have asked before he was not longer with Fox News. As one of the, all of them recorded and standing, retired and standing. The names of the people assigned forgiveness is because there's a breaching method involved. The people attacked the branches, or I don't want to say criticize because they use the word criticize to change what people are saying from the facts they're saying, and from the sequence truth, and they've been using facts and truths for lies, and as collusions with the corrections officers and judicial branch officers. Have collusions with people, have roles with home break-ins in my area and use/S of it, and Wethersfield Police with other police forms involved. There are state police, Wethersfield Police, and F.B.I. and C.I.A. making confessions with their families before and after the World Trade Center attack. They faked conversations with me, ties to me, all kinds of medical corruption at Hartford Hospital, involved with people named Aiello and DiMauro with the businesses next to it, and with people named Colello, involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and campuses with the FBI, that fake conversations and ties to me with the Colello, involved with some sexual and medical offenders, and a bunch of people I never saw on my street, my life, but a bunch of people tied to him, and people in my area with them have been planting fake ties to me on and off campuses I went to. And their roles with their educators also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed this. You're not going to get an investigator proper because they're already showing all of them. Your campuses, you got a criminally forward influence, tactical delusions raw. You speak about Constitution, oaths to the Constitution, or you speak about your oaths. You guys had replaced with James Madison and our founders communicated. It's known. They did not have free speech. They had to pretend other. Everyone's using that speech for leaving out what James Madison had declassified about it. Everyone's framing our founders for slavery or countering them because they were framed for slavery through our own, through the same people defending them. That's our founders knew they would do that too. That's why they told us, do not pretend you know our names. Only James Madison is the only, they said refer to us as James Madison, singular. But they showed us there were how to know there were plural founders that no one had the security to know their names because there was a breaching method /S entrenched. We're supposed to understand that breaching method /S entrenched. In other words, and get me off of fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack, which is also them confessing, demonstrating, recording. They have Saudis I don't know the names of. And my Saudi ex, they forced them to collusions with. It's also people named Mayano and Taito Mayano. Multiple family members of his, houses associated with them. I recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He sought me out in 1994. They hid what I caught recorded before this. His name had been repeated to me before that. Increasingly, Ray Colello, and then Paul Zano sought me out too in 1994. I never saw. Paul Zano and John Mayano have collusions with intelligence families on my street. And I never saw them when we were kids. There are people with Highcrest School that had Paul Zano other classes. And they try to make it look like I tied to them. We never tied. We sat next to each other one time. In other words, we never talked. We never spoke. And then there were people showing me that they're using him for federal evidences crimes. But you fake ties, fake natures ties to people. He's also near a corner of a street where it's like his driveway is pulled back on Route 3. All along Route 3 and conjunctions to it and to that, like the state judicial branch offices. They have collusions with databases at campuses, and with people on my street involved with Paul Zano, with federal evidences crimes with various courts, family members personally and professionally. And they brought Judge Napolitano into this various ways. Also, neighbors of one of the, in other words, the Weathersfield Community Center has a bunch of people involved with at and next to Fox Connecticut News, with the name which, for example, Domain. Rick C.M. Paglione recorded, confessed, demonstrate, confirm a Mike Domain. It's also an Adam Domain. I never met an Adam Domain. I only know the Mike Domain seeking me out to make confessions, including with my algebra class teacher from across the room, and there was only 4 of us in the class. One of them was reportedly a Congressman Larson's relative. One of them was Anthony Yagman, who has recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed a bunch of doctors involved with sexual medical offenders of kids with them, intercities and intra-city and intercampus, and with my algebra class teacher, who also has Jew syntax, also with a Brian Silver. I never had a conversation with Brian Silver, trying to make it look like other. Per Leahy family too faked conversations through the mail with me. As doctors at Harvard Hospital, a bunch of doctors with the mental health care side at Harvard Hospital, and with the prisons, have a Colello family, have a Smith family, with their patients and criminals also run in with them, and the family members of fire departments to hide life progressions. They're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people with the name Scalora too, with Weathersfield Police, with West Hartford, with the malls. The malls and the shopping centers. West Farms Malls has a bunch of people involved with Ray Colello and Joe DiMauro, and their syntax with people with the class of 1993. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slander behind my back, putting fake things in databases. Then people that all get locked in. They had a bunch of people that were involved with child abusers, and with a method against kids. Little boys and girls sickly, distinctly hurt, including sexually, at grammar school and middle school, with people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders at the same time, with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. And these families rolls with all these other countries, and the religious spots where they're fakes with differences. I had an algebra class teacher who repeated sexual things about a little girl that lives near me. And that increasingly, and people ashamed of them, increasingly kept getting brought up. Weathersfield Police. Again, why does I keep getting that thing when I try to say things? I told you guys there's much they know that they have to hide, including a bunch of people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a Claudia Scalora and a Subby Scalora who have the intelligence community confessed that they pretend they use truths for lies when they are caught. Have been used criminally for an influence. They were sexual and medical offenders of kids. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed Bob of the Subby Bajaria, who has identity theft, fake ties to me since I was a kid. One time walking in the car, get picked up. In other words, someone planted them. And these are people with C.I.A. syntax on Facebook. So that's why they took my Facebook pages. And even if they made it up, there were CIA's collusions before the World Trade Center attack in it and since. In other words, Eric Jensen will tell you this because it's also recorded. They're trying to make it look like personally between me and other people from the other cities and parts of Weathersfield and town offices involved with the predicate acts on my street. I never saw Mendez police on my street. One of them, I never had a word of conversation with him in my life. He's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, also with his brother with the hallway of the Britain Superior Court, and with his falsified police reports, plural, for the same arrest, where they make confessions tied to that too, switching and forging names and faking conversations with me and ties to me. They have a Phil Colello involved further with them. And they have confessions of another guy swerving on a bike the next day. Phil Colello swerving on a bike. The only time I ever saw him outside of a car on my street in my life. I'm not even sure specifically if I probably saw him inside a car on my street in my life. A Phil Colello. He also has roles with a bunch of people like an Anthony Agnew with medical and sexual offenders of kids, and their roles with the Mendez police with wire crime acts and methods with them, and sequence shifts. Increasingly, a bunch of people called me through the when they were kids, and well, I never and tried to make it look like I know them, and that was recorded. And they're building a predicate acts between each campus, and they're preventing teachers from saying anything about it. Also, for how they're using and having used, un, nonverbal confirmations. There's a Luigi I never had a conversation with. I never had a conversation with his family members. I'm not sure. I think his last name is Guerrero. I'm not sure. Luigi is one of the ones involved interstates and internationally with the Saudi attackers through their roles with Central Connecticut State University and the campuses of all ages and natures, inter and intra cities, inter and intra campuses. There are also educators of people named of the person named Luigi that are involved with organized crimes and having facilitated his and their roles, like with the John Mile with sequence shifts on my street. These are also people with Washington D.C. and with New York City involved with the syntax of two speech class teachers I had. Never had a personal conversation with either one of them. And a Mike Panda, a girl in my speech class teacher, recorded capacity demonstrated confirmed Washington D.C. is involved with her and her communications with the teacher, putting fake things in databases, fake ties, fake nature ties to me with a Mike Panda, and with people all along Route 175 from the founding locations. And they said that they demonstrated its tied to their roles also along Route 3. But in other words, I, in other words, that's why I took that girl that time when I was a senior to the where she wanted to go to Taco Bell on route off of Route 3. I didn't tolerate that. It was very nice because I knew that because the school demonstrated to me when she was walking by, and no, that's the only time I ever got the chance to see her. But also her neighbors are involved with former director of the F.B.I. Robert Lusky and retired police chiefs from Wethersfield. There's a Reno Mazzucato. It lives not far from them. I don't even remember her name. Forget that. But she also has a boyfriend I never spoke with either, with like kids on a soccer team. This is also inter and intracultural, like with Greece, people from Italy, people from African countries, people from European countries, people from Israel. These are a bunch of fakes, A through Z, when they speak for difference /S. So Channel 3 News has fake conversations with me, and they have collusions also with other natures of media, like alternative and the difference. Oh, well, look, this is that and that's that. Well, let's try the evidence. You guys are the difference was is being used remotely, collusions too. And you guys are obligated mandated law to respond. Get me off the fake conversations with Channel 3 News because they put a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime. What is the value of those fake conversations and ties to me and to themselves? There's a Leahy family, multiple ones with the name Brendan Leahy, apparently, and women in their family. After Hartford Hospital's triage with the mental health care side, which is still, they have personally and professionally judges, prosecutors, their family members criminally foreign influence while tactically delusions raw. And with these other agencies and the different /S of guilt hid behind and through, they're using, they're self-valuing the rights of, like, in other words, you guys are the ones who brought up these other nations, but they did too, but because of breaching method was using you guys remotely. It's all recorded. You guys have the campuses shared together. Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University confirmed. A whole bunch of people, foreign and domestic, they have roles with people from Saudi Arabia before the World Trade Center attack. And sit with their syntax. A bunch of people from Trinity College, from Wethersfield, sought me out in Trinity College, confirmed that they will confirm this. A Joshua Stryker is one of the ones I never saw in my area. A bunch of people came in and confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he's enrolled with Collusions /S with intelligence families in conjunctive to Griswold Street. And I'm sorry to bring these things up, you guys. These are people increasingly involved with the World Trade Center attack, and the interbranch won't get on paper, and they fake transcripts already. And I was next to the World Trade Center attack that morning, and right before it, in the Ninth Circuit Court, next to the World Trade Center, right before the attack. Names on both sides of that case there that day, that morning before the World Trade Center attack, the morning of the World Trade Center attack. Both sides of the case in the court was proven afterwards. That morning, they were shown post-dated from inside the court insidiously to appear late, the legal papers. So the court's identity was used remotely too. It is at the same time, and people with the name Scalora are involved, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with people from other countries in Saudi Arabia with predicate acts. I report from other campuses. I recorded with the ones on my campus with the police chief Cintron, and a bunch of people recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed at the corners of Elm Streets in Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, years before Mazzucato Bakery was there, which is reportedly the extended family member of a police chief Cintron. Involved with a whole bunch of countries there too, but since years before the Mazzucato Bakery was there. And in other words, collusions with the police chief and his families and people tied to them and their neighbors. They're on they're reportedly, I don't know if they still live on Ridge Road, or what is it, Walk-It? I believe it's called Ridge Road, which is a conjunction to Route 175 from the founding locations in Old Wethersfield. Increasingly, the founding locations in Old Wethersfield, good people have been influenced to be evil. They'll tell you the only time that they know them, they have people in the background influence them to approach me and to hide what came first. And they have roles with former mayors from Wethersfield, increasingly, like a Mayor Gold, increasingly involved with the Jewish themed, calling attacks upon themselves too, as ones at next to Fox Connecticut News and other networks, faking transcripts then to hide it, and their collusions with former director of the F.B.I. Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members, and all sides of criminal and civil cases, with the fakes next to Fox Connecticut News and the networks too. How easy? How are you? You have depression. How come you have depression? What's depressing you, Easy? You've been down. I'll tell you, one of the things, the agencies, if you say you're depressed, they'll make it a physical thing and torture you with drugs before the World Trade Center attack. The agencies where I recorded shown they need to hide collusions with a whole bunch of other countries with psychiatry through wars. There are people with Afghanistan that Wethersfield military recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also people from Pakistan at the corner of Sosny Highway and Town Line Drive are a bunch of people involved with mental health care corruption, with the agencies involved with it, cover-ups there. They're putting fake mental conversations with doctors. They're hiding short conversations with them. Then they have a whole bunch of them have to put fake conversations with the fake ones, of the other ones. No, there's a lady Kim I never even had a conversation with. They're put fake conversations through the mail. I can't get them to other people. I can't get them to respond. Then 2 times they have multiple courts, personally and professionally, with judges and prosecutors involved with predicate acts on my street with them since I was a kid. Rick C. and Paglione sought me out to confess, record, demonstrate, confirm this. There were also other things that other people confessed tied to him and his brother and family members and neighbors. I didn't even tell them. They make confessions because they make it look like I know them. Same thing. He's the ones increasingly with the Wethersfield police said that there are people named Colello and Scalora further involved with them, and confirmed was whiting forensics. They have multiple people named. They said the name Christine is involved too. There are educators of a Christine with New Britain Superior Court who force checked her and persuaded her to collusion/S with a bunch of people who planted evidence on my street from other areas. Everyone's repeating fake things about John Miles, one of the ones involved with sequence shifts. I did not know him until 1994. His name had been repeated to me before that by Ray Colello. And real quick, by Paul Zano, they would make me see him to make a fake exception of me knowing him. And he would say, Johnny, like with a voice like that to my neighbor. I never got involved because I knew he was, I recorded it. It's various ways recorded. In other words, there's some sneaky, creepy people in the background putting fake ties and fake natures of ties to people and between them. And these are also some inter and intracultural collusion/S with remote use/S to the differences of the black families from Wethersfield, of the Puerto Rican families, of the Italian, inter and intracultural. There are little fakes with it. The difference of the ones it or not. In other words, this is also relative to its evidence, hyper evidential, how and why we have black people's whites of eyes. And instinctively, inherently, actively, and progressively, we are shown by nature itself. Having black people's whites of eyes, when a breaching method reassign that, having black people's whites of eyes is inseparable from any proper description of how the breaching method reassigned that. You have that breaching method replaced from James Madison's declassified communications to us. The breaching method measured and maintained shows them fake sophistication. You can't replace that. That's the founding principle. Behind James Madison, his plan, a whole bunch of people. In other words, a whole bunch of people. The poor thing, Judge Napolitano with Judging Freedom YouTube channel. There are networks involved with him with wire crime acts and methods, so you can't call them up because they'll change and fake what's recorded and they'll hide it. Fox Connecticut News has collusions with the national, international, in other words, news, currently foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw, with people from CBS and next to them too, involved with and conjunctive to that. Like 2 times I had a speech class, people involved with federal evidences crimes in Route 3, conjunctions to it into that. Lenny Triglia will tell you he was influenced by people to put sequence shifts fake in the middle of it. Lenny Triglia has a bunch of people involved with the car dealerships too, with the people on my street, came on my street to make confessions, demonstrate all along Route 3, conjunctions to it into that, like Hangdog Lane and 2 Route Highway. Lenny Triglia and others on that street involved with the former Mayor Gold. A bunch of ways, and his family members involved with a whole bunch of agencies, foreign and domestic, and their roles putting fake things. I never saw Lenny Triglia on a campus in my life, too. Increasingly, people before and after the class of 1993 are collusions planting identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, fake nature ties to me, planting fake exceptions. There are more involved with whiting forensics, with federal evidences crimes, digital crimes, and with the Facebook pages of the campuses, with ones also criminally foreign influence uses of the Britain Superior Court's Facebook page, Harper Court's Facebook pages, their roles with the district court, with people who have planted evidences on my street since I was a kid. They have people involved with the 1989 Reader's Digest article about Clinton people, who have roles with Russians in 1987 at a corner of a street that are also involved with people with the principal upskirt nature that I caught them with first, with way worse, at the corner of, at the same corner of the street, and with the confessions years apart. And the confessions were to make it look like I had a conversation with someone. There are these things that are still manifest, because if you respond to those things, it's the differences of guilt. That's right where they were our victims/hyper victims. That's also people with uses of corners of streets and buildings for confessions. There's a Jeff Thelman too. Never saw him on. I saw him from the bus. Someone pointed him out. Like people are pointing people's names out that don't know each other, and then making it look like they spoke, as people who have consciously put fake things in databases. Also interreligious themed. There's a former Mayor Gold with some Jewish themed family members, and one guy. He has three brothers, and one of them was older than me, and I hit him with a stick pretty hard. You know, when I was a kid, but that motive was used to hide the rest of the motives he had. He brought in mold too, made a fake exceptions. One of the things I noticed is people make fake exceptions, then they have to hide that. The breaching method knew they would, because nature shows us there was one volume that as nature's identity. That is all volumes except for where and how it is not at the same time. And where it is not all volumes, it is not all volumes except for how it is at the same time. Even if we make something up, nature's volume science is the difference between the order of the finite or the smallest finite detail. The active and the grouped and the simultaneous and or progressive. Everything is in demonstration of the hyper-simultaneous. Watch my videos about that in other words. Easy money. Easy. There's a trick that everyone missed that countries A through Z. When people like they have experts on psychiatry. The locations, Hartford Hospital is recorded, involved with a whole bunch of people that faked conversations and ties to me on my street with Wethersfield police phones, families, and others with the intelligence community on parallel streets too, and that used to live on the street involved with multiple police departments at the same time. When they have to hide live and medical tied to them. They've been putting fake things in the databases, fake conversations with people, as people with multiple courts, personally and professionally, criminally foreign influence. This is why people get depressed. And about crimes and shootings, if you speak about that, they'll pretend it's a physical ailment against you, and they can't help it. They can't help but fake things and change things and hide how that already has been. They have whole careers kept criminally foreign influence. One of the things with the problems of the retired and standing here, we have means by nature given to show us that the retired and standing interbranch even, all the names of the people of sciences, but the interbranch, the identities of law even, they were used remotely criminally foreign. They shouldn't have black people's rights of eyes left out, for example. If they want to debate that, they're going to have inherent too active, too progressive to their logic, their nature of logic demonstration /S of the same. The breaching method uses such things to show the identity of the law. They need to make mistakes, hide things, hide the value of it, what they're actually worth, including with the corrections offices. Hyper additionally, these are names from Wethersfield, Record Express, Demonstrate Firm, with the state offices of the judicial branch and the corrections offices. They're needing to hide live progressions at other locations. They're needing to hide the actual value of their difference /S. So, in other words, and it shows them how and when to, and what means they could use, like wire crime methods. The agencies and the interbranch just fake and change stuff. They force what's the evidence? We don't say, how's a person gonna have evidence if they're arrested and brought into a place, for example? The police forms have roles with arrest to force sexual and medical offenders of kids because they have other natures of organized crimes at the same time. They have women judges roles with it because everyone just took their title and value as it was the way the breaching method taught them at countries A through Z to speak for different /S. They're incapable of it. Nature is different than any other identity of volume. There are proofs that the ancients used pantheism and used the names of gods where people aren't supposed to. That you know, nature shows us that we have to have a scientific value. For example, to teach about how nature shows us that its identity, nature's, is itself distinctly as hyper invisible but still discernible from how it is invisible but still discernible. And English and the other ancient languages is revealed to be taught this way. For example, the parts of speech are about the invisible but still discernible. How and why we need more than one verb for name for a verb is about the hyper invisible but still discernible. For example, present participle, past participle, and there is no future participle. No, just like there are two eyes, but there are three parts of time bound. There are two sexes. And when it comes to eyes, sight, vision, we are being shown it is functional how it is hyper invisible but still discernible. That and how there are three parts of the rest of nature's complete identity that are inseparable from its individual parts. And we know how we are an individual species body of a whole bunch of individuals. And the other individual species bodies are made up of a whole bunch of individuals. And the group differences, that's one of the things two eyes are. In other words, or two sexes between species bodies. That's another way to discern the identity, the hyper invisible but still discernible. So where we have how to think and reason, we have its course replaced. If people try to go to experts of reason, get help regarding, like for example, where Wethersfield police are recorded involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and planting fake ties, and nature's of ties to me since I was a kid, and with people planting fake ties to me, rumors against me on all sides of my house, including on Facebook. It's recorded. People on my street when I was a kid and then as an adult, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they were influenced to make federal evidence as crimes with people at the corner of Southstein Highway and Hangdog Lane. I mean, Southstein Highway and Two Rod Highway. Increasingly, there's a Kerr family, DiMauro families, Pearl, and Colello have federal evidence as crimes there with some judges and prosecutors. And people saw a bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court have federal evidence as crimes that affected confessions to me on my street. And they have wire crime acts and methods, collusion/S, with the state judicial branch officers and corrections officers also involved with them, with the Wethersfield police with that. And all sides of criminal and civil cases already. That's hyper additional from how they already had all sides of criminal and civil cases with the same sequence shifts, the same collusion/S with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. People with the name Colello and others, like Anthony Agman, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Between social media, he has roles with various medical families involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, federal evidence as crimes. Wethersfield police also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed them involved with various natures of sexual and medical offenders of kids they have collusions with. Further, you better get them on paper, please, Judge Napolitano. And from the name Sports Against Witching, get me off of fake conversations at the Wethersfield police station with them and fake ties to them when I was a kid. I wasn't at all when I was a kid. Now as an adult, they did it. In other words, and I need to interbranch. I've been switching names. There are a bunch of people tied to a Brian Silver involved with the Leahy family with Hartford Hospital's campus, and with the campuses I went. Never saw them on campus, but the people that are putting identity theft, fraud, fake ties, that have something to do with a Paul Zano and a Rick Sanfaglione, and how he was, and his brother, Mark Sanfaglione, involved with federal identity theft, fraud, slanders, and timing when I was going to walk into Wethersfield High School. They also make confessions that way. Someone had him stand there like just to make a fake conversation, and Paul Zane was arranged to be the only one there walking in when I walk into the high school when I come out the bus. These are increasingly people involved with the World Trade Center attack, predicate acts tied to those kind of things like that. The only time I ever, and that was like the only time I ever saw Rick Sanfaglio around. I didn't just walk by. They're trying to make fake ties to people and take a picture and make it look like they know them. And then put the other stuff just totally fake. But they won't let any of the stuff address legitimately. Also, these are people with the courts and with the prisons. These are people personally involved with Sandy Hook prisons and campuses, with the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices, with sexual medical offenders of kids, and roles with various natures of organized crimes at the same time. Use collusion /S with use /S of the differences of guilt collusion. Then they want to pretend because they go do things in other countries. In other words, that's recorded dishonest. They can't even get black people's whites of eyes correct. So Central Connecticut State University has a number of students and leaders with the intelligence community who affected, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have some interreligious federal evidences crimes, intercultural interdifferences, racketeering, worse than war crimes rolls on my street, with the same house /S involved also with the interbranch federal evidences crimes, and with confessions tied to this Luigi Guerrero involved with the World Trade Center attack. And get me off fake conversations with Wethersfield police as a kid and an adult. They switch names and make confessions about that. I can't, in other words, they come to your house, make a confession, and run away. They do all kinds of tricks once they're caught, and then you speak about it online. They go, in the background, they use the right to lie, but they don't have the right to lie. They have to hide that, so they start doing predicate acts. Whole method /S a bit recorded. And you guys are torturing me since before the World Trade Center attack, before the Patriot Act. You guys are torturing me not to say anything. Each year, you guys have predicate acts, inter and intra-cities connected. And with the town offices, Eric Jensen and Mike Kerr, and people with the name Jerry Kerr will record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have the Wethersfield town offices involved with them, with some foreign and domestic involved too, with that corner of that street. And I don't know my other neighbor's name, but it's recorded. He recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and they put, in other words, with wire crimes with them and with that spot there. I forgot the name. I keep forgetting to look at the name of the place. It's like between different businesses too. Between the sale of the gas station, are people involved with the former director of the F.B.I, Robert Lusk, and people from Pakistan. The different people. Then one of the guys brought in India. In other words, I think it was Pakistan though. You can't tell. But these are people from Germany, Italy, Ireland. And their roles all these different countries and the way they are with the next to Fox News with some domain. There are people with the name domain increasingly brought up by confessions to me, and just within like trying to make it look something to do with their roles with Walgreens, with the former police, with retired police chiefs and other agencies have people at Walgreens tied to the name domain, who sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm they have roles with abusers of kids, including sexual, and with women involved with it, interbranch through time and on my area. It has something to do with their roles with the fire departments too. And are they with nuclear? What are they doing with the Russians making confessions and stuff like that too with the fire departments? Their family members run into the Hartford Hospital. 2 times they fabricated all kinds of things to force me there, to keep me my mouth shut, because I was forced there for 3 days. When I forced people to call the police without telling them why, I got there. I saw the people tied to Kevin Dillon and to the Wethersfield Community Center. I didn't say have a communication. I saw Brendan Leahy. I knew who he was through other people. Like a Rick Sanfaglio came to my street and made confessions about that. His roles with others too, confessed that they're involved with planting evidences, sequential fake ties, fake natures of ties to me, uses of corners of streets, and they confessed they were influenced of federal evidence's crimes in corners of streets next to schools, next to their houses. Exceptions. So increasingly, an O'Brien family and a Colello family have federal evidence's crimes with the Rick Ciampaglione, with the Brian Silver, and with the Leahy family, and with people named DiMauro at Hartford Hospital, and also with their patients at the same time. Have collusions with the Smith family and with Wethersfield town offices. And they're forcing this stuff leaked about themselves and about the Wethersfield town offices and roles with the Afghan leaders of kids and with the library involved with the people with Hartford Hospital involved with federal evidence's crimes on my street in the parallel streets through time. Fake ties to me. Get me off the fake conversation with the Leahy family and with the judges and prosecutors tied to them. Got to make sure that this judge they get on paper one name in sequence. All sides of criminal and civil cases, including the World Trade Center attack. And in a 2006 district court case, they have collusions with the Brian Silver and with the confessions of Rick Ciampaglione they affected on my street to me with him. And at corners of the streets involved with it and buildings. And other people's fake ties, fake nature ties to me, fake exceptions used criminally for an influence. Their neighbors are also involved with this. These are also people with some black KKK, black team, Latino team, at the same time. In other words, prepare the mind. And this Perone family, it also sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting federal evidence, his crimes, and organized crimes, collusions at the corner of South Highway and Two Route Highway. Try to fake pictures and ties to me with a Violette family involved with various natures of organized crimes with little kids, with their neighbors too. For that my campus before confess, demonstrate, confirm, they forced them to collusion/S with too. So we're going to go into it more and more. You guys have a map being drawn to your house because you don't have interbranch that will get on paper. They won't follow mandated law. They want to identify themselves legitimately. And they're hiding how they didn't. And they know that. They affected confessions. They're hiding how they're using confessions. They're hiding how they are manifest. Because they've been making confessions to the breaching method since before our founders were born, without even realizing it. Since before religious messages were born too, there are proofs. So people, to be strong, all you have to do is follow mandated law. Force the fake news fixed through administrations. Wethersfield, foreign and domestic military has collusions at and next to the networks. And we're going to go into them further and further so you can observe how they are criminally incompetent. They don't even care. People say, oh, it's not my job and all like that. But they're going to go speak and jump into people's conversations anyway, even about World Trade Center predicate acts. You guys should fear God and say and repent. Fix the fake World Trade Center attack conversations. And make sure no one ever pretended I had a word of conversation or I ever even saw him around the campus of Dan Keene. Because increasingly people with the class of 1993, before and after that, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed too. DiMauro family members are involved with sexual medical offenders of kids, also with the security with the campuses, and with the F.B.I. Director Robert Luskin, with various natures of federal criminals, including his co-defendants. Don LaConche is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with investigations investigators used to measure and maintain, about other things used to measure and maintain. They're going to keep their mouth shut about the abuses of themselves, including Don LaConche's abuses by educators and intelligence family associated with Heather Hansen, and forced abuses of kids on her street. Also with WTNH, has been planting evidences all along Main Street, Wethersfield, and its conjunction to Route 175, and all along that, from Wethersfield to Central Connecticut State University in Connecticut, are people who sought me out first to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm things about that. In other words, it has something to do with it. Judge Smith has collusions with them all along that route too. Joe DiMauro, Eric Jensen, Justin Levinskis, Mark Violet. They all have collusions, identity theft, fraud, slanders along Route 175, conjunctions to it and to that. In other words, get them on paper, one name and sequence. They have collusions next to Harvard Hospital too with their educators. And I know I already had classes with these people, and their roles increasingly with people from my grammar school with the former mayors, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties to me, fake nation ties to me, and the roles of the Board of Education, state offices. Thank you, Easy. In other words, it's unbelievable. I was next to the World Trade Center towers and observed in the Ninth Circuit Court things before the World Trade Center attack. I didn't know their names, but I recorded the names and found out the names of some of them. They're switching names too. There's an Officer Hunter switching names with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, before the World Trade Center attack. He forced the family of leaders of kids, like a Dean Judd and his kid, our collusion/S, also with leaders of other campuses I went to too, and their kids and other natures of ties to them. To time collusion/S also faked for them, but where and how people are kept sense and sensibilities, where they won't follow mandated law regarding people's needs to counter things too. There are violence involved. There are overt criminal enterprises involved. In other words, just because they are police and courts doesn't mean they have time. They have time because it's recorded how they have motivations, because all sides of criminal and civil cases and the interbranch, since before our founders were born, why there is a witch trials place next to Webb's house, now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. Why it is there has to do with all the crazy laws against all women, all native difference, all black people's white survivors difference. Northern colonies and southern colonies more than 13, and then America's founders were born. See, the breaching method was already still entrenched. Our founders told us to appreciate that and allow someone to tell on it. You guys have it inside there, and the Americans have in other countries too. That this breaching method, there's a hyperforeign that made modern countries value themselves as voices, as systems, tactically ulterior from natures. So Harvard Hospital has a bunch of people personally and professionally involved with Facebook who will tell you, I never had a, like, kids make confessions about their roles with organized crime acts and with a method/S. And even if you don't know that phrase, or phrases like predicate act, it's recorded that the kids could sense this, because it also has relativity to black people's white survivors is all about this. If anyone wants to deny that what the breaching method did, reassigning black people's white survivors communications, was assigned roles with the predicate acts delivery system method, with its predicate acts delivery system method. Also, so when people look back on the past, it could hide behind and through those roles, where people make facts and subject treatments. We're not supposed to make Constitution oaths. They make their oath where it's not, or they make the Constitution. They want to force debates about the word of the law or the nature of the law, leaving out all the details. Courts were shown to need to force people to pretend they're against crime, so they have to keep people's mouths shut, frame them, change the value of everything they say, put fake transcripts in there more and more to hide it. It is recorded that there were whole careers in Central Connecticut, within the Brent Superior Court, that were kept criminally foreign influence with the state offices, criminal of the judicial and corrections offices, hyper additionally too, from and after they're already on all sides of criminal and civil cases in the interbranch and foreign. At the same time, they put the same self-valued sequence shifts and things like that, federal evidence is crimes. The breaching method knew that nature would demonstrate those things later. Natural law is real, but we don't have free speech to demonstrate this. Judge Napolitano was the talking head. Good people, intelligence people, are kept evil. James Madison declassified things to be for his communications. This breaching method knew that they would have people using the writing of the time and pretend that's science, leaving out what James Madison communicated about how no one had free speech, they had to pretend other. To an extent, slash S, or they were censed. They have our founders framed for slavery. They have the records of it used criminally, foreign impulse, tactically, delusions, raw. They have our founders changed who they were to get away with it. Our founders directed us to refer to themselves plural as James Madison only, but also to understand how and why they were plural founders. And they had to counter-extort key people at key locations and force them to become a country at the last second. I mean, at the same time. Where and how and why. There are all kinds of layers, needs, interests in measuring and maintaining, needs to measure everyone from abroad / worse. In other words, and no one was allowed to do that. So they were going to be hurt down the road from it and killed, and everyone around them. Because there was like an algorithm / S. The database for identities of relativity through all the sick things. There was also the hyper sick thing. Vaccine, the ancient republic for which we stand. Once the databases and roles with it became criminally foreign influence, tactically, delusions, raw. Then and now, and then increasingly, until now, increasingly, they cannot afford to have discerned distinction / S by the republic for which we stand properly. So, intercities, multiple police departments have collusions with the Wethersfield Police Department, affecting confessions and then running away. Too. Little coward tricks, also with their guns and the switching names. I play no games. Get to my paper ones. Don't be little cowards, Mendez police. Wethersfield families. Make sure you get these Wethersfield police, Mendez brothers. Get me off the fake conversation with the older one. There are more people with the name Phil Colello involved with sexual medical offenders of kids. He has other extended family members. There were also people involved with the name Scalora involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and people from our campus recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed that Fred Grisey was involved with them with various natures of federal evidences, crimes, drugs, crimes, and organized crimes, and identity theft, fraud, slanders with people from other campuses, with the Wethersfield Police Chief's family. Hey, get them on paper real fast. Let's go. Judge Napolitano, follow mandated law, please. Oh my God. Don't hide. Every year since the World Trade Center attack, you guys are involved with predicate acts. Sorry, excuse me.